my dear warriors, I have a wonderful episode for you today. I have a podcast guest named Lori Massicot. She is a life coach who specializes in sobriety, mindset transformation, and holistic wellness for women over 40. I wanted to hop on real quick and encourage you to listen to this, even if alcohol is not something you use to buffer in your life. I speak of the thought model all the time. It is one of the frameworks for the work that I do, and we know that we have a think, feel, act loop there. So the thoughts that we think create the way that we feel, and the way that we feel leads us to take certain actions. Buffers are in the action line. So a buffer would be alcohol. So if you're thinking my life is miserable and you're feeling overwhelmed or misery, then you might in the action line use alcohol to drown out that feeling, or you might use shopping to drown out that feeling, or you might use eating to drown out that feeling. I encourage you to listen into this podcast because no matter where you are in your journey, my dear warrior, I am going to encourage you to look at where you might be buffering from your life. So if it's not alcohol, you can substitute in something else there, and to just keep an open mind and a kind lens towards yourself. That life is all about learning about ourselves, and I'm consistently learning about where I might be buffering from my life. For me, it shows up now more days with me over busying myself. So I think of buffers as often over things, over drinking, over eating, over shopping, over Facebooking, over whatever. And mine will be like getting over busy instead of slowing down and just taking a step and a pause and being like, okay, hold on, wait a second, let me look around, let me be mindful, let me look at what's happening in this present moment and see how is this the life I want to be living, is the question to be asking ourselves, whether it is alcohol or food or whatever. So I encourage you today to listen in. Lori is a wonderful, supportive woman, and we go over so many great things in here. And if anything is triggering you about alcohol, then reach out, please. Okay. The triggers tell us things about ourselves where we have growth that we can do. And I always encourage you to look at your life through this kind lens, kindness to yourself, remove the shame and just lean into you. Okay, so let's bring Lori on. She's an advocate for aging happy, healthy, confident, and free. She has a certification in nutrition coaching, and she is the host of a fabulous podcast, To 50 and Beyond, a podcast that celebrates women in the middle of her life. So let's get Lori on. All right, and welcome, Lori, to the Love Your Life show. I am thrilled to have you here today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Susie. I am thrilled to be here. I'm super excited to talk to you. And I love the name of your podcast. I absolutely love it. So thank you for reaching out to me. I'm honored to be here.
Well, that's a lot of what you do. So I'm trying to bring guests on that help us all learn tools and techniques for living a life that we love. And I know a bit about you because I follow your awesome Instagram account and I listen to your amazing podcast. But for our listeners who haven't yet had the opportunity to meet you, could you tell them a little about how you ended up in this place supporting women in their holistic wellness, sobriety, and confidence as they age?
It's the whole package. Yeah, so I quit drinking at 45. I started when I was 14. So I started in 1982 and I quit drinking at 45. So I just celebrated 7 years of sobriety in August. And what led me to that point was just being so sick of myself. I was so down on myself. I was in a really dark place. I was starting to go through perimenopause, and I had probably been going through perimenopause for a while and didn't realize it. So I got to a point where I knew that my life was so much harder trying to make alcohol work than it would be if I quit. And how did I know that? I honestly just felt like there has to be something else besides spending my day thinking about alcohol, drinking, and being hungover. And that is the vicious cycle that I talk about. And it was, I drank and overdrank for 30 years. I wasn't an every night drinker or anything like that towards the end, but each decade for me represented something else. And in my 40s, it was grieving my mom. She passed away when I was 42. I wasn't even processing that. I was drinking right up until her last breath, over by her bedside. And so, there was a lot of pain there. And I just felt like when I say, I thought that there would be something, it would be easier. I meant that it was, and I don't even think I said easier, but it was going to get better. And
Mm,
it had to have been better than the hard that I was going through trying to make alcohol work. So I did that. And then a couple years later, I got on Instagram with the anonymous name 250 and Beyond because I thought I'm going to start talking about my weight because that was also a big
oh,
thing for
yes.
me, food. I'm going to start talking about my weight. I was going to start a Whole30 and I wanted accountability. I'm all about accountability.
Yep.
So I got on there and 250 and Beyond was born. And then I realized, because I didn't know anything about Instagram in 2015, I didn't know what hashtags were. I just went in and I'm like, oh, people are hashtagging all this stuff. So I started hashtagging using the hashtag sober and just to search it.
Mm,
I wasn't putting it in my post just to search it. Like, is anybody talking about this? Yes, they are. And
mm,
it just opened up. And boy, I think I went 3 or 4 months until I came out and said my name, and this is what I was going through. And since then, I started the podcast in 2018. I started coaching in 2018 because this is the time of life where we all have to take a look at our relationship.
mm,
And nobody was talking about it at this stage of life. Nobody
mhm.
was out there saying anything about it. And so, it's hard. It was very scary to do, but now I'm here. I can talk about it all day long.
Love that. Well, I appreciate it. And so much of what you do resonates with me on so many levels. And it's whether it's drinking or overeating or over exercising or over shopping or there are these things that we do that we sort of tell ourselves these BS stories that it's like self-care or, oh, this is, I'm going to have a glass of wine to unwind, or I'm going to eat this bowl of ice cream because I've had a hard day. And we sort of go through life like this until we reach a point. And I don't know what that point is for different people, but I do know for myself it was like a wake up call. I called it like my spiritual alarm clock, where I just one day was like, what are you doing? Like, what life are you living? What's going on? And sort of looking now at these behaviors that we're calling self-care, or even just thinking to ourselves it's like a treat, like it's oh, this is nice and this is good for us, yet 24 hours later it's anything but a treat when you're feeling the hangover or you've had a bad night of sleep. And so how do you address that, this sort of idea that these alcohol is fun, or alcohol is it's fun to go out with girlfriends, or it's these sort of midlife things that we're having?
It is. I mean, all of that is true. And when I quit drinking, I thought, nobody's going to want to go out with me anymore. But, what I had to do at that moment was say, well, I'm not really going out. I'm not going to the clubs anymore. I'm on my couch watching Lifetime and I'm guzzling down 2 bottles of Chardonnay. And, it was just that real moment. There was no rock bottom when I quit drinking. I just felt this pull from above. And now I know that it was God and it was just a message: you've had enough. And so I poured down my Chardonnay and I poured it down the sink and I thought, okay, what now? My life's going to be over. I'm not going to be any fun. I'm not going to dance. I'm never going to go to concerts. I'm never going to go on vacation. So all of these things are
Mhm,
totally valid. Like, I hear it all the time.
mhm,
And what we have to do is realize when we get really self-aware with ourselves, and, midlife women, we want
mhm,
to be in denial a little bit. We want to avoid that self-awareness because we've been doing it for so long, but now is the time. And a lot of times, you go through the change of life and you just get to a point where it's like, why am I, yes, like you said, why am I doing this to
mhm,
myself? And that's all you need to ask. And then you take it and you just go with whatever your answer is. You do something else. And so please, if you're telling yourself that you have to have a drink, or I need to have a drink, or I deserve a drink,
mhm,
what you really deserve is a good night's sleep.
mhm,
And you deserve really honest conversations and connections with yourself and other people. You don't deserve to wake up hungover. You don't deserve to be up in the middle of the night in a panic and sweating because you don't remember what you said last night. So it's playing the tape forward all the way to the end before you take that first sip. And
mhm.
nobody deserves that. Yeah.
What I really, I was telling you before we started recording that I had done a poll on Instagram and Facebook, sort of asking people questions. And one thing that kept coming up for people that was so interesting is this sort of like aha, like light bulb, like, oh, I don't know why I'm drinking. This sort of curiosity. And one woman put it so well. I wrote it. She said that I wish I had been more curious about why I was drinking. She now has been sober for many years, but she just said, I wish I had been like, I wonder why. Like, why am I saying that I need that glass of wine after my hard day instead of looking at why my day is so hard? Or why am I saying I need that, beer to enjoy my time with my husband instead of looking at why I'm not enjoying my time with my husband? So, without the alcohol or whatever the stories are that are telling us these things. And I think, to your point where you just said to get curious and think about why you're doing these things, and when you're telling yourself it's fun, to first of all be aware that you no longer are 20 and going to those clubs, and it's not as much fun anymore when you are sitting on your couch watching TV. But also just that idea of why we're thinking that we need these behaviors at all, even if we're getting together with girlfriends and this, like, well, why do we need, to drink 3 glasses of wine at book club when we're hanging out with, like, isn't hanging out with our friends enough? For me, it was a lot of I have realized in my later years that for me, it was a lot of social anxiety and a lot of, I never had, I don't even like to say a drinking problem because I think it's a problem when you're drinking too. But I never really drank in excess when I didn't want to drink. Like I would I've had eating problems before, so I'm well familiar with that. Whereas
Mhm.
the drinking, I had more awareness around, except that I didn't realize that I really was drinking because I was like sort of holding my introverted self safe. Okay, so I'm going to go do this. I need to drink a lot in order to do that. Yeah.
That's what we're used to. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the story for me too. I drank, my first drink was pink champagne at a high school party. And I thought, oh, wow, I'm not shy anymore. This isn't going to
Mm,
be hard anymore. And you hold on to those stories, because we get them when we're really young and we hold on to them. And then we think in the middle of life, you get that tiny nudge. Just one day you wake up and you're hungover and you say, why am I drinking like this still? That's all it takes. And,
mhm,
to be it, I always say the word self-awareness, but it's just to be that aware of what it's doing to you and to realize that no, you're not going out to the club, especially this year. I think 2020 is the best time for women to really reevaluate their relationship with alcohol and to step back and say, this isn't serving me anymore. There is absolutely no benefits to me in my life. And what is next? What is next for me? And so, rewards and treats and everything, that's great. Every single week we get to a Friday. You don't have to celebrate every single week with Chardonnay. You can do something else for yourself. So I totally I get all of these old stories. I had all of them. I questioned my drinking for 2 years. I kept asking myself, why am I doing this? Because I started a journal to track my perimenopause in 2013 in
mhm,
May. And I kept writing notes to myself. And that was the first time I ever put anything down on paper like that. And then I started ripping the pages out and writing letters to myself. Why do you
mhm,
keep doing this? And this is what happened last night. And this is how you're acting. And I had a 12-year-old at the time, um, a wonderful husband that I've been with for almost 24 years. And, it was just a lot of sadness, a lot of sadness. And that journal really led me, the self awareness is what led me to quit drinking in August of that same year. So it is about asking yourself that. And it's about exploring it further and not just saying, well, I don't know because I'm used to it or it's a habit. I used to always say to my husband, like, this is just becoming a bad habit. It
mhm,
was way more than that. It
mm,
was way more than that. So everybody is different with this. Even if you're just drinking a little bit, you're not a drinker that, I don't use labels. I don't use any kind of labels. If you're just somebody who is not feeling good anymore and you're questioning, I think it may be alcohol or every time I drink, even, it's on the weekends with my friends or my family, it's that Friday celebration. And then I wake up Saturday and I don't want to do all of my stuff. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to exercise. And then I wasted an entire day. That's reason enough
yeah.
to to stop.
Well, and I think you just said so many things there. I was trying to take notes, and I don't know if I'll be able to address them all. But first of all, what I'm hearing and all of the work that I do is really to look at our life through this compassionate kind observer, like, and to really get curious about why we're drinking alcohol and to be kind about it. That if you're having one beer and then feeling groggy the next day, or you're having, a pitcher of beer and feeling groggy, that just to be kind to yourself and be like, I wonder why I am drinking. I wonder, why I'm choosing in that moment to do that sort of awareness. And then back to the book club example, I love layering in the awareness there too as we get into midlife, and say, it's me saying, okay, I can't wait to go to book club because then I get a glass of wine. It's like, okay, let's look at that. Who is it? Like, what do you do? Like, who is that book club? And if I were thinking, oh, I need to go to book club and have the wine to get through this conversation with so and so, well, then why am I choosing as a totally, individual adult to go spend time with this person, and or maybe talk about a book that I don't even like. It's so interesting to see how peer pressure still plays out in midlife, which is, yeah.
Totally. I mean, it's funny, and we all want to say, oh, no, that's not why. But, think about having a conversation with your girlfriends and bringing it up and see what
Mhm.
they say. Because,
Mhm.
if we're all hiding in this feeling of, there's so much stigma and shame around having a problem with drinking, it's pushed on us when we're younger, hey, go out, party, live it up. This is the way to do it. And then you walk in the grocery store, you see it everywhere. And that's where
Mhm.
everybody says, everybody drinks. These
It's
events. I
so
mean,
normalized.
it's so
Well, and yeah,
normalized.
can we
Yeah.
even like talk about Target, like rosé all
Yeah.
day
hmm
and all
But
this.
that doesn't mean, I mean, come on, midlife gals, are you kidding me? Please, you're not drinking because of that. It's not
Mhm.
because of that. It's
Mhm.
because of all of the other things that are going on with you that you are not at a point right now where you're not acknowledging it. So start acknowledging it, start shining a light on why you don't want to do it instead of all of the other things, because those things are going to be there forever. It's going to be in Target. It's going to
It
be on t-shirts. It's going to
Absolutely.
be,
But I
yeah.
guess to look at how we've sort of normalized it as a tool to get through life. I mean, I even saw with COVID, it was like, oh, you don't
Oh,
need to wait till 4 p.m. to drink anymore. And I'm just like, come on, women, like, why are we doing this to ourselves? Why not say, like, okay, what is it? I know time is difficult and times are harsh right now, yet there's always something in our life, and what are our tools for managing it, and sort of, I guess that goes along with this whole, I've heard you speak of it too, like, let's not settle for
yeah.
just mediocre and going through life with this like haze of alcohol on our system, or whatever our buffer is, whether it's alcohol or whether it's food or whether it's over shopping, let's
Oh, those are
pause.
all my three. Those
Yeah,
are all my three that you just said. Over
there you
shopping,
go.
over eating, and over
Yep.
drinking.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's why people now are speaking up about it. It's not
Mhm.
as anonymous. Sure, there's still anonymous people, people who are quiet and they don't talk about it, and that's their choice. But, to be able to talk about it at this stage of life, and to know all of the women who just come to me from my podcast, and you got to know that you're not alone. You have to know that you're not alone in this.
So what do you say to the woman? Because I know there are people out there that maybe have parents or family members who were really sort of fall down drunk alcoholics, and they're looking at themselves and they're like, but Susie, that's not what I'm just having a glass of wine every night at the end of a day, or I'm just having, how do you help them?
It's everybody is different. So honestly, if there is a point, and especially if you're listening to this because you have been questioning it, that's all you need. There's nothing else from our past. There's nothing else from our past. There's no kind of I'm just like totally, Susie, you're gonna have to edit this. I totally just drew a blank. Uh,
That's
I'm
all
like,
good.
maybe I should have had a coffee. Uh,
That's right. There's
uh,
nothing of our past. We're all individual. What I think I hear you saying, which is so interesting, is that if you're just having a glass of wine every night, like quote unquote just, and you aren't having that questioning and you aren't having, then there you go. But looking at, I guess I like as a coach, and I heard you say too, that midlife is not a time, I forget the word that you use, for willy nilly. I loved it. You're like, this is not a time for willy nilly. And it is. I like living a conscious, intentional, examined life. And any habit that I am doing, whether it is having coffee every day, or whether it's having a glass of wine at night, or whether it is, stretching for 2 minutes, or whether it is sitting in front of the TV, I am going to pause with my compassionate lens on myself and say, like, how is this helping you? How is this, helping you? Because what we're doing are, these things are habits. And so if there is that little questioning trigger in there about, oh, okay, yeah, I am having that glass of wine every night and I'm just sort of pouring it unconsciously, then that's when this is your opportunity to sort of pause, like catch your hand in the middle of that and be like, let me see.
Yeah, and
Without shame,
totally.
without
Totally, without
shame.
shame. And going back to, growing up with parents who were alcoholics or, were just drinking all of the time. There's a lot of women who never drank because of that and then
Mhm,
started later in life. They didn't go into college, they didn't go into their 20s drinking, and then they picked it up later in life. And, there's a point where you just have to stop comparing yourself to anybody else, and including your parents,
mhm.
and just take a look at what you need to do. Talk to somebody first,
Yeah.
always get help. There's all kinds of, there's traditional treatments. There's now there's of course coaches like me. There's programs you can join. There's no reason to keep this inside. And I always like to say, is it worth it? Is it worth it anymore? Everything I do now, TV, food, is
Yeah.
that going to be worth it?
Right.
And if it is,
Great.
great. You're a
Mhm.
big girl.
Yeah.
You make
You
your own
got it.
choices. Yeah, you're a
Right.
big girl.
Well, I want to
Um,
circle back to what you were saying about help, because I think if maybe if you didn't have any family history, or like me, I think I always thought going into, this, that there was AA or there was nothing. Just and for listeners and watchers out there to know that there is such a wide array of help and support there, that it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can still, it's not like, I think people resist, as you said, the label, like saying I'm an alcoholic and that means I will never have a drink again for the rest of my life. That's a bit too much to jump into. I've heard you use the term sober curious, or like, could you explain that a little?
there's all kinds of labels out there. There's the alcoholic, there's the binge drinker, there's the drinker who drinks to just, comply with others, the people pleaser who says, well, I can't go to a party with Aunt Sally and she's going to be offering me wine, I have to drink, all of that. And then the sober curious is just that. You're curious about what your life, and this is did I record a podcast on this? It might be a blog post for midlife. You're not really curious about sobriety. It's you're curious of how you're going to feel without alcohol. You're curious about, hey, I've been doing this for a really long time. What is it going to be like for me when I give it up? And that's a beautiful place to be in. Don't deny
Mhm,
yourself that, because follow that curiosity, and then don't deny yourself all the good things that are going to come your way. Because,
mhm,
I got to a point where I was just always so negative about myself. And, I was drinking a ton towards the end. And I got to a point where this isn't going to work. And I wanted to resist the good feelings that started to come in and think, well, it's not going to last. It's not going to
mhm,
last. And the more I kept going, which is really the honest truth, to, get sober and to stay sober, is have support and keep going. Give
yeah.
yourself time, have patience, and don't talk yourself back into the fact, okay, I went 30 days and I feel great. The reason why Sober October exists, Dry January, those, I feel like those are for a health reset. And those are for women who know that they have not been thinking about this drinking for a really long time. They have not been thinking about all of their behaviors and the way that they act after they drink and the way that they feel. These are for people who maybe have an occasional glass of wine, especially Dry January during the holidays, and they want to reset. And so I really believe in counting your daily actions instead of counting the days, and just taking care of yourself, upping your self care, and getting structure into your day so you're not willy nillying it.
Well, and what's so important about what you just said is to have support, because as you take alcohol or whatever the other, I call them buffers, these other things that we're doing in our life to sort of hide from our life, as we remove them, we then have the full life experience, which is not all rainbows and daisies. It is, we have the highs and the lows, and to have some support to be able to feel those feelings that we are humanly designed to feel in a wonderful way, but to not go at it alone. Because I know that once you remove that sort of buffering behavior of drinking or over shopping or overeating, like what you're going to feel are your real feelings. It's that like, the things hit the fan, and but it is a much freer, better way of living. I know we're both on that side where it's just this free place. So how do you address people with friends and family who maybe don't support their decision or their growth, sort of the alcohol or food pushers?
Yeah. It really is sad when we don't get the support, but we know as midlife women that not everybody is going to understand us. Don't try to force what you want to do on anybody else and anything that you want to do in life, right? You don't get it, husband, it's okay.
Mhm,
Not for you to understand. And it's really hard. I'm not saying this is an easy process, but you stay in your own lane, you do your own thing, and actions always speak louder than words. So if you're somebody who's been saying for years, I'm going to quit drinking or I'm going to do a marathon or, whatever, just do it on your own and don't say it anymore to anybody else because you're going to be met with everybody's opinions. When I quit drinking, I want to say I didn't go to AA because of the stigma and the stereotype around it. I thought if I can't do it on my own, I'll go. And I think that's more of the reason that I kept going,
mhm,
because I knew that I really needed it. And I'm not suggesting anything. AA has helped so many people, including a lot of my close friends, but I didn't want to tell anybody, even my close friends that I started drinking with when I was 14. And
mhm,
so I thought everybody's on a need to know basis because I don't want their opinions. And the opinions that I got were, you don't need to quit drinking. You can
mhm,
moderate. And I thought, okay, well, you're not seeing me every single night. I can't
mhm.
moderate. I know that. And I was somebody back then who was very, I used people's suggestions. Now I never ask anybody's opinions on this personal stuff, but I use their suggestions like, oh, okay, well, my friend Julie said that I could moderate. So I could, but
Well,
no,
I'm
I
gonna
just
try
stayed.
it tonight,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I just stayed really focused on the fact that no, Lori, nope, you can't because you don't
Mhm,
want to. I
right.
had no desire to moderate. And so, everybody is on a need to know basis. You don't have to
Well,
tell everybody your life story and you don't have to get anybody's approval with this. I had a gal reach out to me not too long ago that said, I've been giving my husband all the books. I want him to read all the books. I want him to understand that I can't drink
mm,
normally. I said, well, it's not your job. That's exhausting. That's
mhm,
exhausting. And what's more exhausting is not making the decision to go all in because it's just wasted 2 years of my life. It really did.
mhm,
Rules and justifications and all of the things that I tried to do to try to moderate, it just sucked all the energy out of me. So then at 45, after 2 years of researching and reading, and am I an alcoholic? I decided it doesn't matter. What
mhm,
matters is what I do and for the rest of my life. And I cannot imagine being 75, being blackout drunk and throwing up and being mean to
mm,
the people that I love because they wouldn't be there
mm.
at that
Yeah.
stage of life. So you got to keep going. You got to do your own thing.
Well, and isn't that the beauty of midlife? That's what I'm
Yeah.
finding is that when we are younger, some of our lesson is to stop looking outside for all of the answers. I mean, I was taught as a little girl that I didn't know what was right for me, and you don't know, and be quiet and do what everyone else is doing. So then we're taught to look out there for the answers. And then when we start having these life experiences where it's not working for you. It might be working for your husband and it might be working for your aunt, or they just don't want to see. They don't want to see their own life. Our actions can very much be a difficult mirror for someone to look into. I know that was my experience with friends, and I lost some very dear friends when I went through a divorce, and I a lot of that was because if they supported me and if they saw what I was standing up for and saying no more, they would have to look at their own marriages and do some of that hard work too. And drinking would be that same way. And for us to just be able to turn back into ourselves and be that sort of midlife warrior and say, this is what's right for me. You can keep drinking and you can have an opinion that I shouldn't be doing this, and you can enjoy that opinion of yours. And I'm going to keep choosing water. Thank you, or whatever it is.
Yeah, we can't worry about anybody else's judgment of themselves. I mean, we just don't have any control over it. And that's what it is. It's holding up a mirror because you say, I'm doing something really great. A lot of people don't adjust well to change,
Mm,
and especially in our loved ones.
mm,
And it's like you're holding up a mirror. And so when I told people, I'm not going to drink anymore, and it was kind of like crickets. And it was like, I never again. No, Well, I drink because it relaxes me. I drink because I like the taste. I was
Mm,
getting
like
all of
it's
these
defensive,
all
right?
of these things coming in. I thought, well, I didn't ask. And so I realized that, okay, that's on them. That's
Mhm,
their thing to figure out. I have to just be concerned with, no, I drink to get drunk. I drink to numb out. I drink to escape all of the pain. And,
well, one of
when
my favorite sayings is if it triggers you, it's about you. And I guess if one of the listeners out there is trying to make some behavior changes and they can reverse that, that if it triggers them, it's about them. Like, yeah, I mean, we really are food and drink pushers in this. Well, dessert and drink. Like if someone were to offer you a glass of water and you say, no, I don't want water, they're just like, okay, moving on. Lori's doing her thing. But if they're offering you a glass of wine and you say no, then you're like, well, why not? What's going on? Are you, same thing with like a brownie. Like, well, why aren't you having dessert? Are you trying to lose? It's like, oh my goodness. Whereas, 10 minutes before when they offer you the carrots and you say no, they don't even blink an eye. But
Yeah, because everybody likes the camaraderie, and especially with drinking, and you have to realize that and just know that you don't have to push your drinking or your sobriety or your going alcohol free, however you want to call it. You don't have to push anybody into that. You don't have to get anybody on board with you. You do
Mhm,
your own thing, and we all influence each other. And so people who are thinking about it are going to question you. And if you don't get invited places, it happens. But you know what? It's not about you.
mm,
It's
yeah.
really not.
Okay. Have you had any of that like FOMO come up? My friends are going to, I think I heard you speak about a wine tour or like these, and how do you help people move through that?
Well, you know what? It's very painful. And I have, relationships that I had for a really long time, they're just different now. But, I have no desire to go to a winery. I went to a winery, let's see, I quit drinking August 11th. I went to a winery October 2nd because my
Oh,
sister turned 50. And I was the designated driver for the very first time in my life ever,
wow.
ever. And I was miserable. And she didn't want to go to brunch the next day because I wasn't drinking. And so to have a relationship with my sister, we drank a lot together. And that has taken time to work out. But she really wasn't thinking that I was going to quit drinking forever. And,
Mhm.
I just kept doing my thing. So you may not get invited places, but you got to remember, like, it's painful. It sucks. I mean, can we just say it sucks when you have good friends and they're not inviting you because they're drinking and you don't drink anymore? You have to really look at that relationship because maybe it wasn't as deep as you thought it was.
Well, and for me, that brings up a lot of past episodes I've done, and I can link some in the show notes with people pleasing and this sort of idea of who were like what are those exactly, like looking at those relationships and how connected were they and what are they founded on, and if we're I just love being a woman and speaking with women like you and other women who have had on the show and speaking out about this. Like, let's look at how we're living our lives and what works for us, and really doing what a lot of media has not done and pulling women's health up front and center. Alcohol and middle age do not mix well. It is not, something that they've shown works well in our brain. The media does an amazingly manipulative job of making us think that, wine is a health food or is healthy for us. Yet, it's up to us to stand up and speak up and start claiming back some of that health and vitality as we move forward.
Yeah,
Which
definitely.
really is what I love your platform of this, confidence as you age. And it is that confidence, the saying that you're not going to drink that night and then finding yourself with, your bottle of wine or, your thing of beer or whatever in your hand is one of the worst things we can do for our self-confidence and our self-image. And it is so sad to me when I think of the times that I did that for myself, but then also, hearing of other people do that.
Yeah, you don't have any self-respect when you
Mm,
wake up in the
yeah.
morning. Yeah, so that's what you have to focus on instead of what am I going to miss out on and how fun it is to drink. It's fun about 20 minutes in, and then, after that, if you're like me and you don't stop after one drink, and I'm not talking to anybody who can drink moderately and normal, my air quotes normal. I'm talking about the women out there, and you know who you are, the women out there who are escaping life. And
Mhm.
it's not going anywhere. Fortunately, our life
Yeah.
isn't going anywhere. And so you got to take care of your emotions. You have to feel these things. This is a gift to
Mhm.
be able to set through them without escaping them, because, you know, it's harder to do that than it is to actually sit in it.
Yeah, it absolutely is to stop. And I would say I would consider myself a moderate drinker and that I can have, I just love what you just said that like it works like 20 minutes in. So I'll have my beer and 20 minutes in, I'm like, oh, hoo, so fun. And literally like 20 minutes later, I feel hungover already because the alcohol and my age and metabolism, all that stuff, it's like, what is going on? And I have started to wonder, I'm like, oh, I have that questioning that sort of, that we're talking about that it's like, okay, so why am I having even one beer a week if it leaves me, I have 20 minutes of Yahoo and then 12 hours of ick, which the same can be said. And this is what I just want listeners to examine with themselves is the same can be said sometimes for, a donut, or the same can be said for, buying something expensive. It's like we're getting that hit and it's very temporary, and let's just keep looking at that future self and what's best for us to live that life that we love, which is what what
Absolutely.
we're both here trying to encourage people to do.
Yeah,
Um,
midlife women know that quick fixes and, I want those results right away. It doesn't work. It's not a thing. It's just, come
it's just
back to
gold.
reality and
Yeah.
know that anything that you want in life takes a lot of time and a lot of patience with yourself. And then you start practicing all of the kindness and all of the love and taking care of yourself. And, I was taking a walk this morning and I was thinking about just the beauty of feeling boredom and
Mm,
feeling peace and calmness, because I had so much mind drama and so much chaos in my life on my own. Nobody was putting it into my life. I was
mhm,
doing it because, everything was always a big worry. Everything was stressful. There was no way I was using all of my amazing tools that I have today to get through all of the things that I was trying to get through with alcohol. And once you step out of it, and it's the only way that you're going to figure it out is you have to tap out. You have to give yourself a break from it. And, you just continue on and you don't resist all of the good feelings. You got to stick with it.
mm. Yeah, that's I love that. I love thinking of like the drama and the chaos that we're bringing into our lives ourselves, and then why. It's really a good place to sort of finish up because that's how we started at these ideas that these things we're doing to help ourselves, or it's like, oh yeah, I'll just have this to get through the day. It's like really not helpful, and let's look at that. So if people want to learn more about you or work with you, where would I direct them?
My website, lorimassicot.com. You can listen to the podcast 250 and
Great
beyond.
podcast.
And then Lori Massicot on Instagram.
Okay.
And that's it.
Yeah, I will be putting all those links in the show notes, and I'm so grateful for the time that you've had here today, spent with us today. And I thank you as you help our listeners go out and live lives that they love.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much.
Lori.
I'm honored. Thank you.